Hello everyone, and welcome to Your Health, Your Choice. I am Dr. Roopnarine, and we are coming to you live from our studios at ACTN. On tonight's program, we're going to be discussing mental health. In studio with me tonight is Mr. Ferose Abdool. Mr. Abdool is a psychotherapist and counseling specialist. Mr. Abdool is based at the Gulfview Medical Center in La Romaine. As usual tonight, our numbers should come up at the bottom of your screens, and we'll do our very best to get to each and every one of your questions and comments during the show tonight. So guys, let's get the show going. Let's talk about mental health, and let's say hello to Mr. Ferose Abdool. Ferose, good evening. It's a pleasure to have you on.
It's certainly my pleasure to be with you on this program. We've been talking about this a long time, Robin.
Yes, we have, Ferose.
And it has happened.
Very good, very good. So Ferose, I mean, you're someone that's been in and around medicine. You've been an allied healthcare professional for many years, over 50 years, you were telling me before the program.
Yeah, about 52 years.
So Ferose, you're someone whose opinion in the field of mental health we value very much. Right. So Ferose, I'm going to throw you in the deep end to start off with.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
It doesn't make sense starting an experienced man like yourself with easy things.
Well, I promise I'll go wherever the flow takes me.
All right, Ferose. All right. So Ferose, I was thinking about today, like, this studio is based in San Fernando. All right. My medical practice is in Marabella. It's just in the Pointe-a-Pitre area. And one thing this town has seen over the last few years is that we've seen a lot of unemployment.
Yes.
All right. So today by Sapa, we saw a lot of people lining up for jobs, trying to get a job on a cruise ship. We over the last few years, we've seen pet closure, Petrotrin. A lot of our patients in the community have become unemployed. And recently as well, we see in the newspapers that people in other state enterprises might become retrenched.
Sure.
Now, Ferose, I think that it feels sometimes that people forget to talk about some other issues other than the financial issues, right?
Sure.
And me and you, we're concerned about healthcare, and we're concerned about mental health. So let's call it a spade, Ferose. What is the immediate mental health challenges that this group of people in our society face? Because being unemployed is not an easy thing.
Sure.
Yeah, I'm sure you're worried about your family, you're worried about putting meal on the table, and these people are quite possibly under severe mental strain.
Okay.
All right. So before you start, I'm talking to one or two of my patients over the years as well. They tend to tell me like they feel like they've been forgotten. Like they're no longer valuable to society once they've been retrenched.
Sure.
So Ferose, I would like you to spend some time and speak to this topic with our population at large, right?
Okay.
What is the challenges that unemployment brings to someone in terms of mental health? What people can do to help themselves, and what can we as a society and medical professionals do to bring these people back to proper mental health?
Okay. So, Robin, you mentioned the closure of places like Petrotrin and so on.
Yeah.
But maybe I can use my experience working in the Department of Psychiatry.
Yes.
By going back to the days of Caroni and the
Right.
closure of Caroni.
Right.
Now, immediately after the closure of Caroni, we saw a lot of things like depression, suicide increase.
Yeah.
We saw breakup of families. We
Yeah.
saw an increase in incestuous relationships within the home.
Yeah.
We saw a lot of substance abuse.
Yeah.
Now, it is said that the Caroni workers were essentially associated with a lot of alcohol consumption.
Yeah.
But if that were true, it certainly got worse. And then were included things like marijuana and cocaine and so on.
Yeah.
So I wanted to emphasize to you that, when institutions like governments make the decision about closure of institutions like Caroni or Petrotrin, they probably consider the economic reasons that resulted in the closure,
Yes.
but they don't really analyze closely the long-term effect and how it's going to impact on society by and large.
Yeah.
So let me open by saying that.
Okay.
Now, one of the biggest problems of being retrenched, Robin, is the feeling of redundancy. You alluded to that.
Yes.
I am no longer a productive person.
Yeah.
I am no longer being able to contribute to my society and my community in the bigger picture.
Yeah.
But then that can transcend within the home, because you're no longer a productive person in the home, because you may have been the only breadwinner, Robin, in the family, right? And that gives you a certain status even within the home.
Yeah.
They recognize you as the man who brought in the money, but that will take care of the family needs, right?
Yes.
And so now even your own kids, if you're not careful, and there were some challenges in the relationship, they can see you less than being the man in the house.
Right.
So that's important.
Right.
Now with that will go things like anxiety, anxiety problems,
Right.
stress-related problems.
Right.
They would have problems with depression.
Yeah.
You would have problems associated with it. Like, for example, you're not sleeping, you're not eating well, you don't have the energy to take care of yourself, so you'd have medical problems arising out of that. Now, Robin, I know many women who would say to me that I look forward to the day when my husband is no longer working, when he's retired.
Yeah.
But trust me, many of them will come back to me afterwards and say to me, boy, after 1 month of his being home, I can't put up with him anymore.
Yeah.
So as a result, there would be a lot of conflict that would come up in the home between spouses and between spouse and kids. And also you would have marital disharmony arising out of that. So it's a whole gamut of problems that can occur.
So what you basically there alluded to, what you described for us, you described for the wider audience what is going on in this unemployed or recently retrenched person's immediate mental and environment.
Yes.
Right? And that's a lot of stuff, a lot of challenges that they would face. I mean, you described the depression, the marital breakdown, feelings of inadequacy. Fantastic, but how do we take someone, how can we help that person? I mean, it's easy to describe, not underrating what you said, but it's easy to describe and understand the emotions and the feelings that person is going through, the challenges they face. But how can we help that person in a tangible way to overcome that or to move on? Or is there any moving on, or is it that they live in this limbo until they get a job?
So, Robin, I feel that there could be preparation for this process.
Right.
Organizations, for example, have a responsibility that as they're going to retrench people or send people home, to get them involved in a process that prepares them for this event.
Right.
If not, it becomes a significant trauma in their lives. Right? So organizations need to prepare their employees. If you know you're going to retrench people, and they do know, Robin, they know their bottom line.
Yes.
They know how many people are going to send home. They need to involve them. For example, when you retrench people, they and their family lose all the other benefits they would have gotten before, such as medical benefits and so on, right? So you need to prepare people for that, right? So they need to have conversation about that. Now, the other thing is, Robin, I have people telling me, boy, I wish I could go to sleep and wake up and it was a dream that I had that I was retrenched. Which means that my job is now to help these people to wake up to the reality that this is happening, this has happened. If you are in denial, you cannot handle it, you're not going to deal with it. You have to wake up and say, you know, I am retrenched, I now don't have a regular income, what I do need to do, right? So understanding your problem, acknowledging the problem, understanding where you go from here. Then there are other things that we encourage them to do, Robin. There are things that they may have wanted to do before, but when they were working, didn't have the time. For example, you may want to get into a little kitchen garden. This is a unique time. You may have wanted to do basic things around the place with your spouse or your children. This is the time. You may have neglected your own health and your own basic needs. This is the time to do it, right? Like exercising, taking care of your diet, meditation, visualization, relaxation. These are the things you can do to help you, not just physically, but the way you are coping mentally with the stress and distress of retrenchment.
Right. And that phrase that you said, that sometimes people are stuck in a non-reality, that it's a dream. How do people on their own? I mean, it's a fairly technical subject we describe, and it might sound very speaking around a theory. But do people on their own come to the realization, or is it that they need help? But the majority of people, can they help themselves, or do they need professional help?
By the time someone becomes literally ill, Robin, they've lost insight. So they may come with behavior problems. They may come, for example, with anger management issues. The husband and the wife quarreling all the time, and they will tell you they don't know why, because they still love each other, they still care for each other. They will not give up each other for anything. But then when you engage them in the conversation to find out what is really happening in their lives, both individually and collectively, you realize where this is coming from. They themselves don't recognize this. Right? They see it like the blame game. This one is blaming the other. And that doesn't help. So you need to get them to talk about how they feel about what is happening, find out what is really happening in their lives that is influencing and impacting their behavior. Because that's the only way you're going to bring change. It's not what you or I think, but it's what they are feeling.
And what is the consequence if we just turn our back on people that have been retrenched, right? They're going through this emotional nutritional problems, what is the consequence to the wider society if we don't support these people, if we don't as a community get up and say, listen, hey, we know you're going through a rough time, come, let's go out, let's do something, let's get professional help, let's go talk to Ferose. What is the consequence to us and to them if we don't do that?
So, Robin, what you're going to have is a very dysfunctional home, a dysfunctional community, a dysfunctional society, and the end result is total chaos in the society. And we are seeing that with the increase in crimes, the increase in drug use, and so on.
Is it beyond the immediate stress? Are these people at risk of like psychiatric illnesses, like schizophrenia, suicide, depression? Does it really go that far, or it doesn't really go that far, or is there only very small percentages that it goes that far?
It's a much higher percent.
Right.
Very often this is understated, recognized, right? Because you mentioned things like schizophrenia and so on. Sure, if the person is predisposed to other mental illness like schizophrenia and so on.
These are stresses that bring it on.
Yes, certainly. These are stressors that will bring on other mental illnesses and so on. So it is important that we recognize this. For example, Robin, look at medical problems, medical health problems, right? Look at the chronic disorders like sugar, pressure, heart, and so on, right? People don't recognize that at least 59 or 60% of these people with chronic disorders also have a clinical depression.
Of course,
And very often, even Trinidad's research corroborated what we are told from developed countries in terms of statistics. But less than 1% of those patients are treated for their depression.
All right. So what I get from that, right, is that recognition of the person's mental status is very important by everyone in society, including healthcare professionals, and recognition of mental strain and depression is very important as well, right? But what can someone do other than go out for exercise? Is there any other coping mechanisms or tools that you could offer? Any advice?
No. So when you reach that point, when you find that you're losing grip of yourself, something is happening that I don't understand.
Like you feel you're going to lose your mind. You know, you just feel like you just could scream at society. Because I've heard people tell me, Robin, I just feel like I just scream and give up this whole country. They just reach that point of despair.
People become hopeless and they become helpless.
What can I do to help my friends who talk to me like that?
What you need to do, first of all, you just answered it. You need to let them talk. You need to let them vent and to express themselves rather than to let it build up in them. Because that build up is not just physically, that will affect them by developing hypertension and other associated problems, but will shut them up into a situation of becoming so acutely depressed in their feeling of hopelessness and helplessness, they may consider suicide, for example. And I think you will agree that worldwide now there's an increase in suicide rates.
So I agree, and I do agree that other than just retrenchment, there's loads of other issues going on that is adding on the mental strain on people. And I do agree that we all need to put together and recognize and help each other out, help our brothers out. And I understand what you're saying about the exercise, keep them in positive frame of mind. Now, let's just move to a little different category of patients or people in society. Like, let's, for example, those that were by the SAPA today, for example. These are people, what about people who are job hunting, like young graduates and stuff, right? I mean, sometimes I meet them and they just hang their head down and they say, Robin, it's impossible. It is happening so depressed and frustrated at trying to get a job and I can't get a job. I mean, the solution to everything is everybody get a job and money, right?
Sure.
But it's not going to happen right away. But in the meantime, in that space, how do we keep these people positive and happy?
So, Robin, as a parent yourself, being a parent and a grandparent yourself, I will tell you that sometimes we cannot begin to imagine the amount of pressure that we put kids under in order to achieve university degrees and so on.
Good point.
And then when they achieve, Robin, they're nothing to look forward to. So that what I do, and I have a couple of kids now, who while they're waiting to get what they ideally want, what they're graduated to be, they look for things to keep them in the interim.
Right.
They may not be the ideal job, but it's something that keeps them going, something that they can feel a sense of purpose and achievement and doing something, simply keeping occupied occupied.
Yeah.
As they say, idle mind is the devil's workshop.
Yeah.
So they get engaged and they do that.
Yeah.
But what we need to do, Robin, sometimes.
And then sometimes they learn a skill there in doing that. Sometimes they open up their mind to different creative outlets, like we do here. And sometimes it comes back to help them in the development in the future career, or sometimes they can make it a avenue for income as well.
Well, that's the point I was going to make, Robin. It's an opportunity for them to recognize their creativity and the skills and the talents that they have.
Yeah.
Sometimes when you're studying, you're geared towards one particular area.
Yeah.
This is an opportunity to diversify even your thinking and your mind and say, what else can I do? And I see a lot of youngsters, Robin, who develop themselves into things that never would have thought.
Yeah, good point.
But this is an opportunity.
Yeah, good point. And I just want to comment on that because reading recently, the whole world is, traditionally, Trinidad is set up, or we thought that, hey, you just get a job and it's one job and you have one career and that would look after you through the rest of your life, right? I think COVID has changed the whole world and the whole dynamics of the world. This is something that I would have seen in my experiences in Latin America beforehand. We need to understand that we need to get multiple sources of incomes, multiple jobs. The idea of just one job taking you through for the rest of your life is probably outdated.
No, sure.
Right?
Sure.
And you as an individual have multiple talents and skills, right? So I think one positive thing is that out of these kind of difficult situations, us as individuals could realize, hey, we are not defined by this. You're not only defined as being a doctor. You're not only defined as being a therapist. Or you're not only defined as being an engineer. You're not only defined as being a cleaner. But you have a lot more skills and potential as a human being, and you could explore lots of different avenues, and that will help you grow professionally and in life and everything, and also help you economically. And I think that's the reality. I don't mean to take up all your time. But that's the reality. That's the reality that I would like younger people around me to understand. That no job comes easy. That we have to have multiple skills. That we might have to do more than one job, and look for multiple sources of income and move forward.
Absolutely, Robin.
Would you agree with that?
No, absolutely. And I know many young people, Robin, who trained for professional careers.
Yeah.
And they will tell you, Robin, that they wish they were plumbers or electricians.
What I'm saying is let them do it.
Yes. Right.
The world is your oyster. Go ahead and do it.
This is your opportunity.
Yeah.
Go and become a good professional
do it all.
plumber. Robin, you and I know that sometimes you're looking for a plumber and you can't find one.
Yeah.
A good professional plumber.
Yeah.
Right? These are times when people can go and start planting a few things in the back garden instead of cutting the grass.
Yeah.
And next 2 weeks you're cutting the grass again.
Yeah.
Plant something and you reap something.
Skills.
Yes, of course.
Yeah. All right. First, the first section of the program is finished already. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll push forward the discussion. All right. So, guys, we're here with Mr. Ferose Abdool. We're discussing mental health and coping mechanisms. I am Dr. Robin Roopnarine. At this point in time, I'd like to formally invite you to send in your questions and comments to us in studio. Help us move this discussion forward. All right, guys. We'll be back in one moment.
ACTN The Voice welcomes you to join us for our newest agricultural television series, Harvest.
Welcome to Harvest. We're doing it double again, north and south. This morning we start here in Brazil Village on Bethany Estate with Michael and Jacinta Milne.
You can look forward to a personalized tour around scenic Trinidad and Tobago, showcasing different agricultural practices and teaching us self-sustenance.
So Wendy, you're about to show me your Bromeliad House.
Yes.
Oh, this is lovely.
This is what our customers refer to as the Mecca for bromeliads.
Explore the many ways to make your harvest right for you.
So our chicken coop is more or less built at a height whereby it's easy for us to go and just remove the wood shavings into our barrow.
Now, you don't plant out your seedlings, you buy the seedlings, right?
Yes, we purchase our seedlings.
Here we are on a not quite monocrop site, but we have rows of tomatoes, rows of sweet peppers, and then you have the Milne's polyculturing.
Join us every Tuesday at 6:30 p.m. Harvest, a new dimension in agriculture. ACTN The Voice launches a new and versatile culinary series called Stacy's Kitchen.
Hi everyone, welcome to Stacy's Kitchen. And on today's episode of Stacy's Kitchen, we will be cooking up a Thanksgiving feast. Our rolls are ready and looking yummy. Nothing like a good curry chicken and some basmati rice. So I'm gonna start putting my wings in to fry.
We will showcase how to make tasty international cuisine with our local products. We emphasize meals on a budget with our selected ingredients.
Restez à l'écoute, Stacy's Cuisine. Au revoir.
So you can put how much, depends on how big you want it. So our fish is ready. Oh my God, look at that. Oh my God. Just like paratha, this is lovely.
Join us on ACTN on Monday evenings at 6:30 p.m. Don't miss Stacy's Kitchen, exclusively on ACTN The Voice.
You're watching ACTN, The Voice. Connect with ACTN The Voice on Facebook or Instagram at ACTN The Voice. ACTN The Voice, your family-friendly station.
All right, guys, welcome back. We're here with Mr. Ferose Abdool. We're talking about mental health. Right, Ferose, so we just discussed the retrenchment and how to support our citizens and our people, our patients during that important time. Another topic that I wanted to talk about, I mean, it's been all over the newspapers and I've been seeing it on social media, right, is school violence. I mean, it ain't normal what we're seeing out there right now.
No.
That's, I mean, we always had bullying and little fights and stuff in schoul when I was going to school. But in your time, I'm sure you probably had the same thing, right?
Yes.
50, 60 years ago. But what we're seeing right now is like a explosion.
Yes.
And something's wrong. I mean, we have to admit something is wrong somewhere for us. First, with your experience and your knowledge in this field, let's speak to that first. Speak to our audience about that.
So, Robin, I don't think there is any singular factor that is responsible for this.
Yeah.
I think it's a multiplicity of factors all working together.
Yeah.
It piles up, and the end result is something of what you're seeing now and what you're talking about. Right? If you look, for example, the impact of what we just spoke about unemployment and how that impacts on the family and the home, you can see that if you have a dysfunctional family at home, for example, Robin, you're going to have dysfunctional kids.
Yeah.
Often, I mean, I worked in child psychiatry for a while.
Good.
Both away and here, so I can talk about the local setting. And you can see a very close relationship between what goes on at home and what happens in school. Now, it is not right for us to blame parents for everything, Robin. But I will tell you, in my practice, for example, when I see children with behavioral problems, and when I meet with the parents soon afterwards, I can understand better that the child's behavior, abnormal behavior, unhealthy behavior, are symptoms of what is going on at home.
For us, that's a really eloquent way of saying that look at the parents. that the result of what we see in the school is because of what's going on at home with the parents, and we need to talk to the parents. I mean,
but I want to make it clear, Robin, that I hear statistics that 9 out of 10 kids come from those homes. That is not necessarily true. So I don't want all parents to feel that they are responsible. But there are situations where parents need to stop for a moment and ask themselves the question, what is really going on in the home that may be contributing to this situation?
All right. They don't really teach you parenting skills here. Are you saying that if we have better parenting skills? I mean, I'm a parent. I have 2 kids, right? if we parent better, that we're less likely to have these problems in school?
Well, what would be ideal, Robin, is when a woman gives birth, when the baby arrives, instead of the stillbirth, if she gets a manual, a workbook that explains how to take care of this kid now. Unfortunately, that does not happen. She learns from trial and error. She learns from what she experienced when she was a child. She's learning from the society and the community and from the family. And some of those skills that she may be practicing on her kids are probably not the healthiest of skills.
Okay. So what you're saying as well is that sometimes children just mirroring what they see in the rest of society?
Yes, exactly so, Robin.
Right.
And not necessarily healthy things that they're mirroring.
Right. Right. Ferose, what's your opinion on corporal punishment? Giving children licks. I mean, it's very common in the Caribbean growing up, right? I mean, you always hear about people. I mean, licks is normal, as you call it in Trinidad. We've moved away from that, and internationally we can kind of see that. Look, that's a violation of a child's integrity, a right to his space, and a right to his body, without. Always hearing people saying, well, if we went back to giving licks in school, that we would have this problem. Do you agree with that? I personally don't. But do you agree that if we were having like discipline with the whip and stuff like how we used to have it back in the day in schools and at home, that we wouldn't have this problem?
So, Robin, if you talk to some of the best teachers that belong to a different time, they will tell you very clearly, since this was taken away from the school, that we started seeing a lot of issues. They would also criticize that a lot of people who inform government are involved in forming certain policies and so on regarding these issues, probably never had kids themselves, don't know what it is to have a kid who will simply not listen. Now, Robin, as a parent yourself, sometimes you tell your kid the same thing 3 times, they would not listen. Just give them a pat on the shoulder and they run to listen. You raise your voice at them, that may be considered abuse, but they would listen. Now, I'm not suggesting that we develop this habit and make it normal. I'm not suggesting you take a belt and beat your kids to death. I'm not suggesting any of that. I'm hoping that we reach a point now where our kids understand to grow up responsibly, to listen to their parents. Of course, we need to explain things to them, so there's a rationalization in what they do. If they understand why they need to do things, Robin, perhaps they will conform with doing them. But by nature, kids are sometimes naughty. By nature, kids are manipulative. By nature, kids know how to play with your head, Robin. And if they know, if you teach them that, you need to be mindful.
All right. Now, what we see in schools, right, for us, is beyond that. We're seeing real hardcore violence, stabbings, beatings, the full works. I mean, it's almost at some countries they describe it as almost criminal behavior. Amongst teenagers and younger children.
Of course.
How do we we know what causing it. We all think it's breakdown in societal values, kids mirroring it. But how do we pull back? How do we improve the situation? That's the real question.
So the question is, which comes before, the chicken or the egg? Because
I would just want to say, well, all right, that generation is gone, and let's focus on the next generation. But we must have these kids who are going through this right now. What can we do right now?
So Robin, when I look at the kids that I see, and I see in the setting where I worked in the hospital, I will tell you, Robin, very often when these kids come with this kind of behavior, for example, an adult who is depressed may present with feeling helpless and hopeless, not sleeping, not eating well, and so on. Children who present with depression often present with aggression. They will take a stone and break the principal's windscreen, for example, and no one recognizes this as depression. They see it as a naughty child, a child who has behavioral issue.
I get your point.
And when I see these kids and you really sit with them and you chat with them, what you have is a clinically depressed child.
I get your point.
Who needs specialized help, together with the parents and as well, Robin. Because, it's not about treating one person. I always give an example. If this one finger in my hand is hurting, the whole hand will hurt. So I treat the family as well. Because in that way, I'm best able to help the child.
I get your point. I think you're trying to tell me that look, we need to get in there and deal with the actual children one-on-one. We just don't make policies or we talk about them, but we actually need to see these actual children that are behaving bad or having problems, and actually get to them and talk to them, and that there is a root, it might be a root cause in terms of a mental illness or emotional illness that may be causing this behavior, and that we can't give up.
No, we cannot.
And we could actually help and fix.
Of course.
If we get the therapists into the schools, if we put the energy and enthusiasm into meeting these children, each one-on-one, it might work.
And I'm so glad to know, Robin.
Maybe it might not work, but I think it would work.
No,
we have to try.
What we have to do is to broaden the scope of the training of teachers, for example, so that they develop skills to recognize children who may have other issues rather than learning disability issue alone. Right? Probably depression in kids, maybe ADHD and so on. Now, they are not going to diagnose the child, but they can recognize something is amiss.
And what you do traditionally, they have helped us a lot in the past.
Right.
The teachers have always, I mean, as a GP in the area, the teachers kind of tell the parents something ain't right here and this is that. And they actually give us good suggestions. And they actually go as far as naming illnesses and stuff that they might have. And the parent, that leads the parents to seek medical attention and help. So yeah, I understand what you're saying. And I think what you're trying to say is we could expand onto that as well.
Yes, of course.
All right, let me ask you a real direct question. For something that's probably been asked over the years, fathers and sons probably had a discussion for years. How do you deal with a bully? Do you punch them in the nose, or what's the best way to deal with a bully in school?
Bullies are not born as bullies as such, meaning that they didn't wake up one day and decide they become a bully. But this is a learned pattern of abnormal behavior. When you look at someone else who is supposed to be your best friend in your class, and now you want to take advantage of him. This is not normal. So we really need to identify those people and get them to see specialists who can accurately diagnose the problem and therefore appropriately treat with them.
All right. So if you, I mean, you have grandkids.
Yes.
You have loads of kids and you have loads of grandkids.
Right.
If your grandson came up to you and said, "Grandpa Ferose, I'm being bullied in school," right? And I know out there at home, you have loads of little kids being bullied, and they probably tell the parents or not, but I'm trying to encourage them to tell the parents, and I'm trying to give the parents a way. What did you tell your grandkid if they came up and told you that?
All right. What would I tell?
So we're not really focusing on the bully.
Right.
We're focusing on the person who is being abused or bullied.
For sure.
How do they deal with that?
Yeah, because such child wouldn't want to go to school, Robin.
Exactly.
Such a child is not
going
to learn. And the child would be able to sleep or rest.
Potential.
That's right.
So that's why I want to address that.
So what I would want to do is to sit with my grandchild and let my grandchild talk about what happens and importantly, how you feel about what happens. I would want to go to the school and engage the right person in the school, whether it's a teacher or through the office of the principal, and get them involved because that's where it has to be resolved. They need to recognize because the act of bullying, teachers may not be aware, for example, you have a bully in a class. Not until someone comes and identifies that will they recognize it and therefore need to take the necessary action to deal with the bully. But bullies are not bad people.
No.
They're kids who have problems and they need help to deal with their problems.
I mean, we're not gonna
stigmatize
them or make them out to be bad
and criminals.
And criminal. But I mean, that's wanted the kids that might be bullied to at least feel comfortable to talk to their parent and also to give the parents some tools that they going into the school and fighting or getting on. That's not the way. That's not the way forward.
That's a no-no.
There's a procedure to go through. Like you can talk to the teachers, alert them, and teachers are fantastic at dealing with these things too.
Robin, teachers have years of tremendous experience and expertise that we don't have.
So talking to the teachers, you have to engage the teachers properly because they're the ones there with the kids.
Yes.
And we have to respect them and tell them, and they know how to deal with it as well.
But Robin, you and I wouldn't be here today had it not been for excellent teachers that we were blessed with.
Of course. So for us, like a lot of this stuff you're talking about, right? I mean, I've read it in the newspapers and stuff. People talking about the breakdown in the family unit, right? They say the breakdown in the family unit has resulted in a lot of these societal problems and mental health issues.
Sure.
Can you explain that to me and to our audience? What is it? What do you mean by when they say the breakdown of the family unit is a cause of this?
Okay, Robin, when you have relationships where where individuals get together, often for the wrong reasons.
Yeah.
People who are very, very mismatched get into this.
Yeah.
When you have youngsters who don't know how to blow their nose sufficiently, but who are having kids.
Yes.
When they lack direction and focus in their lives.
Yes.
When they can't even think very clearly for themselves.
Yeah.
Then you can imagine what's going to happen. The end product of that.
I mean, like persons who are not necessarily emotionally responsible.
Yes.
To engage in sexual relations, engage in sexual.
That's right, Robin.
Right.
And yet when we talk about responsible sexual education, there's this whole class of people who say that should not be done.
Right.
Don't educate. They figure, you see, when people think about sex education, Robin, they always think only about the biology of sex.
Right.
But sex education is way beyond that.
Right.
It's a broader thing about teaching your children about family planning, about STIs, about responsible behavior, about waiting until you are ready to take the responsibilities for action.
Of having kids. But what is the breakdown? So what happens to, let's say, kids in a home that has broken down? All right, let me ask you another way. Why do marriages break down?
Well, there are 101 reasons.
You're a marriage counselor.
Right.
You involve in huge amounts of work with the family courts and in counseling. Why do marriages break down?
So let me give you some statistics, Robin, on that subject.
Yeah.
It is held by the experts now that in the 60s, about 60% of adults were married. Now, it's only about 32% of adults who are getting married.
And in Trinidad, do we know how?
No, this is worldwide statistics, right?
Right.
So it's an average statistic, right? Now, I want to give you some other statistics.
Go ahead.
If you look at cheating in relationships, Robin.
Infidelity.
Yeah. 40 to 45% of women cheat their partners.
Correct.
45 to 50% of men cheat their partners. Now, when we talk about cheating, normally we're thinking about men only.
Yes.
But women are also guilty of that process.
So is infidelity the number one reason why marriages break down?
It's one of the reasons. It's about the third reason on the list of that, right?
Sorry, go ahead.
Now, if you look at about marriages for itself now, when a person gets married for the first time, your chances of that marriage breaking down is 50%.
All right.
50% first marriage.
How many say breakdown? That means divorce?
Yeah, divorce. Separation or divorce, or a living dead relationship. They're together, but there is nothing happening in the relationship.
Right.
They're both unhappy and miserable.
Weekend at Bernie's.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Just walking around.
When they remarry, the chances of that marriage breaking up now is 60%.
Right.
And when they marry for the third time, it's 73%. And there are reasons for that, for example, because people who come out of a broken marriage usually look for people who come from broken marriage too.
And there's issues there.
Of course, they already have issues. They bring in a double sides of baggage into the relationship, so the chances are even higher.
Right.
The other thing is that when people come to me for marital counseling and they decide to end the relationship, for example, and that's their right and privilege, Robin, if they're not happy anymore, and counseling is not working for them, and they're not feeling that they want to get back into that relationship, I tell them, take a break. Don't just hurry up into another relationship. But people invariably do that. Within a year, they get back into serious relationship. They start having kids and so on again, Robin. Right? So, but you asked the question, why do people marriage? So I develop a little list based upon my findings in my practice, but very interestingly, the literature, the research literature supports it. For example, poor communication. Relationship, if, for example, it is said, Robin, that people would simply learn to talk to each other, communicate with each other, 75% of our problems will not exist. Simply learning how to communicate with each other. The second one is lack of commitment. A lot of people get into this thing we call marriage, but there is no commitment in it. They feel the day they feel ready to pack up and go, they go. They still want to act as if they are still single or independent and so on. The third one is infidelity and sexual reasons. That's the third one. Abuse, physical, emotional, psychological, neglect, for example, as a form of abuse. You have money issues, not learning how to dialogue, communicate, budget, and so on. Another reason. You have basic incompatibility. You know, when people go to school, they get along very well, Robin, and they automatically assume they're going to be good marriage partners.
Doesn't happen.
It doesn't happen that way. Then you have addiction. drugs, alcohol, and so on, right? Porn addiction, Robin, is something that I see regular in my practice now, where the wife is in bed waiting the company of the husband, and he does not arrive there. She gets up 3 in the morning and goes in the basement and see him there looking at porn. That's a serious issue. Then we have marrying too young, Robin. We still have that as a problem. Don't ask me what age is too young, but I would say when they're not ready to accept the responsibility that go with relationships and marriage. Then you have lack of family support. Now, in a marriage, we need family support, but hear this. There's a danger of interference by family members too, Robin. That can happen very easily. Right? So that's another reason. You have religious differences where people are incompatible in that way. You have health issues. You have parenting issues where there's discord about how different views, as you would say, right? Unresolved traumas in their previous life or their earlier life, unresolved, so they bring into the relationship. So there are lots of reasons why people as marriage end up as broken marriages.
That's a really extensive list.
And it's not the entire list, Robin. There are other reasons.
Feels like the odds are stacked up against you from the start.
No, well, that's why I said that you find that very few people are getting married to now, Robin.
All right. So, Ferose, we're going to take a second break. And when we come back, we push on a bit more. All right?
Yeah, sure.
All right, guys. So, we're taking a little break now. I'm here with Mr. Ferose Abdool. We're talking about mental health. We're talking about different issues that are going on at the moment in society. Please send in your questions, send in your comments. We want to address it, be part of the discussion. All right, guys. So, we'll see you back in one moment.
Football 101 is on every Tuesday and Thursday night at 9 p.m.
I'm your host, Joshua Matos, and I'm joined by Nikolai Marjorie, Jeremy Bridgenath, and David Lucky.
This is where you'll get all the football news that you need to know.
Glamorize football to what it is. This viewership speaks for itself. At the end of the day, these guys are making billions on viewership.
With heated banter.
They'll have more trophies, more Premier League trophies, more
You are talking past. You are talking past. I'm talking about current situation of the club.
And trending discussions.
Barcelona was built around Messi.
Well, Messi created the most chances against Real Madrid in the Champions League.
Covering all the major leagues.
If you all don't win Europa, you can hold this. This is the only cup you all are going to hold.
Failure to support their core coaches with the kind of budget.
I think you have somebody delivering some food for you. We need to get service like this on the show.
Yeah, I can do some of that right now. It's about that time.
Football 101, bringing the field to your home.
You have the most assists right now.
Keep the back and pop it, no, we're not stopping.
Relax. So you know we in session.
Time to talk through, adapt, miss a load.
Relax. So you know we in session.
Don't you deal it, catch me on your TV. Every Thursday, ACTN The Voice in session. Yo, my name is Elisha.
And my name is J Prince.
This Thursday and every Thursday
at 8 p.m. we are
in session.
All right, guys, welcome back. So for us, that's in terms of your man has been around people and patients and counsel patients who've had significant medical illnesses, like for example cancer, other sorts of diseases and illnesses. You're part of a team of the doctors that help these patients with recovery, right?
Sure.
Now, in your experience, you've been at this for 50+ years, right? In your experience, what is the key psychological factors or mental health strengths that people have that help them with faster? You understand my question?
Yes. No, I got you, Robin.
Give our people,
so
audience at home
let me give
tips.
you the result of some studies that were done.
Right.
In one study, they found that if a woman had breast cancer and she received adequate professional counseling, she survived 5 to 6 years longer than her counterpart who received no counseling.
Right.
The newer studies also said, for example, that such a woman would survive twice as long if she received counseling than her partner or friend who did not.
Right.
So that we have now established clearly the benefit of incorporating it.
Right.
Even in patients who have had heart attacks, for example,
Right.
and who would have traditionally had bypass surgery,
Yeah.
now they're saying if those people had received adequate counseling, 75% of those people may not have needed bypass.
Right.
You know,
Right.
so it is significant the role of therapy or psychotherapy or psychological methods of therapy,
Yeah.
even in physical illnesses, Robin.
Yeah. So I mean, the old saying, "Strong mind, strong body," holds true, right?
Absolutely.
But what characteristics is there innate in the person? I mean, some people just, some people just have this sort of inner mental and spiritual fortitude that helps them get better. In obviously with the doctor's care and everything, but they just have this sort of aura and charisma about how they approach the illness that you kind of know that they're going to get better. If you could just tangibly explain those characteristics.
Well, there's something that we call
positivity.
You have it or you don't, Robin. There's some people who by nature are that way inclined.
Yeah.
They have the strength and the fortitude no matter what they're faced with, you know they would survive.
Yeah.
Others we will need to help them to build what we call their coping skills.
Right.
By engaging them and helping them to recognize that they have the ability, the capacity to do what needs to be done. Robin, as a therapist, you really don't do it for the patient, you know.
No.
You have to teach the patient how to do it for themselves, because at the end of the day, I could only spend an hour with a client, but the patient goes home and has to live with himself. I also incorporate the family involvement in that as well. So family support is a crucial aspect of that. Now, Robin, think about the average patient who comes to your office or into a clinic. The patient comes alone. You hardly see the spouse there or a close family member. And that is what we need to encourage. Now, I know in hospital clinics sometimes
family support is extremely important.
Absolutely, Robin. Absolutely. I cannot be there for the patient all the time, but you, the family member, you will be there. And then is something we call support for supporters, Robin. The caregivers of the patient who is at home. Do we ever spend time with them, saying a word of praise to them? You are doing such a great job with mommy. Keep it up. Is there anything? How do you manage? How do you cope? Because sometimes the caregiver need a bit of care too, Robin.
Yeah, for sure.
Right? Because they all go through a lot of pressure. If you think about the elderly, those with Alzheimer's and dementia and so on, Robin, we have to help them. Even the diabetics and so on who need to have their blood taken and their check done and to help them with their diet and their medication and so on, Robin. We need to involve family members.
Right. So what I'm getting from you is that those patients need a really strong support network.
Yes, they do. They do.
Especially when you get older as well, and you really need a strong support in terms of your caretakers, your family. I suppose you need spiritual guidance as well, and good doctors and everything to push you through. You need a level of optimism as well.
Yes.
And I think owning your illness as well. Sometimes people leave it in the hands of the doctors and they don't want to hear anything more. But I think sometimes those patients that sort of read and take active involvement in their own treatment, which is what the modern goal of medicine is. This is the avenue we are approaching in terms of medical management of people, that you are active participant in your treatment.
Well, I mentioned this to you earlier, Robin. The most important member in the medical team is the patient. And very often we fool ourselves and think that we are the most important person. But we give ownership, we give authority, we give power to that person. My health is my business.
Right. The other part of it, Ferose, I wanted to discuss is we're now coming out of the COVID-19 pandemic, so to speak, right? During the lockdowns were very intense for a lot of the patients at home. It caused a lot of mental stress, right? Now that the pandemic is over, or not over, sorry, now that we've moved to a more endemic and lockdowns are not really, we don't really have much lockdowns anymore. Is it that those mental stresses were temporary and these people recuperate sufficiently, or is there long-term mental stresses and mental illness that might be as a result of those lockdowns?
Well, apart from the long COVID that we talk about, that will have symptoms for a long time, in terms of the psychosocial and emotional aspect, I don't think that will simply disappear, Robin.
Okay.
That that will linger on for a while. But this is why we need to have community programs, and a program such as these, Robin, that will be there to give people information, accurate information, but to be supportive and to help them to develop these systems that will help them to grow beyond it and to heal. Healing is an innate process, but sometimes it needs a little support to make it happen.
What do you mean by it's an innate process? Explain that.
When you get sick, there's the average person desires to get better. Nobody enjoys being sick, right? So that there is an innate, there's a personal drive from inside that I want to get better.
Right. The other aspect of that I thought you were going to say that I've realized is people need time.
Yes.
And society does not really recognize. I mean, there was a word or a phrase I used to use, convalescence, right? Even after injuries or illnesses, man, people
or surgeries.
That word is gone off the vocabulary in the modern world, right? And we look for get off our feet, get going, come on, back to normal. And we as a wider society sometimes get frustrated when people not perfect immediately. But in my opinion, I think we really need to give people time. Right? Time to get better, especially from mental illnesses, mental strain. You can't rush people, right? Because the process of them getting better is actually where that actually is reinforcing that pyramid, reinforcing that foundation for future endeavors and for future stresses in life.
For sure.
Right?
For sure,
if you
Robin.
rush people through something, they might not develop the tools inside of them that they need, the coping mechanisms that they need as part of this stepping stone in life towards other further challenges. Would you agree with what I just said?
And that's why in my days, Robin, we had the saying that time is a great healer. You need to give time to allow it to take place. And when it does take, you see, unless you have a little cut in your hand, Robin, in 7 days, remove this plaster, remove the stitches, and you're good to go. With psychological, mental health issue, it doesn't work that way. It takes time, it takes processing. Sometimes patients come to us for counseling, Robin, and they feel like you have a magic wand. Just wave it over the head, and after 1 or 2 sessions, they're back to normal. It doesn't work that way. Sometimes it takes several sessions, and they're working along with their therapist to make this happen, Robin. The therapist doesn't actually treat the patient in that sense. The therapist guides and helps the patient to develop the necessary skills and techniques in order to bring a call to recovery.
Right, exactly. So my point being again that skills are built up over time. Sometimes little hardships. If you don't rush them, we're there to support them, but they will soon discover the innate skills to overcome it, and those skills that help them overcome it will become strengths and help people achieve greater goals in life.
Right, and when they do this themselves, Robin, you're helping them for future.
And I think it's especially relevant too in grief.
Yes.
When somebody has lost a relative or a loved one or a husband or something, I think people kind of sometimes nowadays are like, you had to get back together, get it back together quickly, move on, you're still young or something like that. It ain't so.
No one has the right to tell you that you should recover in a day or a week, Robin. That's up to you. That's very personal. They could be there to support you and encourage you, hold hand with you, Robin, but it's up to you. And this takes time.
It takes time. So the other aspect I just wanted to touch on really briefly, we have about 5 minutes in the show, is we see a lot of addiction in Trinidad and Tobago at the moment, right? Everybody under severe economic stress. Nobody have money in their pocket. Yet people drinking and gambling.
Yes.
That's an addiction. Sometimes they become addicted to it.
Sadly, we don't consider addiction mental health, but you can have mental illness with it. We consider it a social issue. Right?
Well, I mean,
in terms of diagnosis.
It's a medical problem too.
Of course, it's a medical problem.
It's a medical problem.
Right? But it's a real problem, Robin, and it's a growing problem. And now I have patients who previously I would have seen in company who were not permitted to smoke marijuana and so on. But now they're saying to us, they're laughing at us, Robin, and saying, hey, hang on a minute. There's nothing you can say to me anymore. Right? So now that these things are made more available, more legally available, it creates, if you ask my colleagues in psychiatry, Robin, about the use of these drugs when patients come to us, the youngsters who come to us with chronic heavy use of things like marijuana, PCPs and so on, they really off for life, Robin. Very few of them would ever recover to the point of going back into a normal channel of life. life,
Right.
going back for their education,
Right.
going into keeping job and so on.
Right.
At all not what we hear happen. They may end up in St. Anne's, they will end up in the prison system, and that's a vicious cycle now.
So before that happens, right? What do you do to how do you help these patients? How do you as a professional help them? I'm asking you personally.
No,
as a
for sure.
Yeah.
What we need to do is, first of all, Robin, when I have a man and his wife come to me, and the wife says that he beats me whenever he drinks, he runs us out of the home, he sold the fridge and the TV, and I asked the man, so you heard what your wife says, so what do you say? He said, I don't know what she's talking about, I don't have a problem, I enjoy me drink. So how do you help a person like that, Robin? So we try to move them from that point of pre-contemplation, meaning they don't understand what is happening, they don't understand a relationship between their behavior, that is their drinking or smoking, and how they are conducting themselves. So we try to shift them through counseling to a point where they can say, okay, now I understand when I drink what I do.
Right.
So that would be the motivation that would lead them to getting help.
I get your point. People need to want to have help.
Yes, they need to.
They need to recognize it, and you basically try to get them to recognizing or reaching that point that they need to know that they need help.
Yeah, build the insight in them.
Insight.
Right? And until that time, Robin, trust me, there's nothing you can do for them. If a fella is happy drinking, Robin, he's not going to give up drinking. And maybe the drinking is serving some purpose. In his life, it's serving some purpose, whether it's to deal with stressors or work problem or whatever it is. Maybe he has intractable pain and he drinks to get relief, you know.
All right, well, Ferose, we've come to the end of the program.
Already?
It did fly by, and it was a difficult topic to discuss. Not easy things to discuss. It's very relevant. I try to make it as relevant to what's happening in society now, and try to at least put some sort of template in how we could at least assist people who are suffering from these issues, and not really just describe them. You know, because everybody in society says, "Oh my gosh, we describe a whole list of problems," but very rarely we get people who are experts like yourself who could at least say what to do and how to help somebody, you know, because it's real people suffering from these problems and real families suffering from these problems.
For sure.
And they are not professionals. They didn't go to school, to a fancy school like you, to get all those coping techniques and learn all those fancy things.
I don't know about fancy schools, but I was blessed.
Yeah, do you understand what I mean?
Yes.
And the benefit of having somebody like you here is that you could tell them from your experience, look, you know, this is what I think will work to help you, and then they could apply it in their life.
Yes, for sure, Robin.
And that was the purpose of this show. So, Ferose, I thank you very much for coming on.
It's my pleasure, Robin.
And the second part of why I'm honored to have you on is that you've been in this field for almost 50 years. One, and the second part of it is that you're one of the original pioneers of this sort of medical education via the medium of television to our community here in San Fernando and beyond. And for someone like you to kind of give me that endorsement that you're coming onto the program, you always supported me when I was doing the program, giving me little tips on how to reach out to the audience, giving me little TV tips as well. You tell me, do my own style, do me. But and I appreciate that. I appreciate that very, very, very much.
So, Robin, let me thank you for having me, but let me compliment you for an excellent job. I mean, I look at your program every single week, and I enjoy your program. The topics are very relevant. I admire and respect the simplicity, not only of the speakers you invite to the program, but yourself, to make sure that the average person outside there understands the subject, understands the language, Robin. That's important, because you and I are not here to fool ourselves.
No.
We're here to do a job, and that is to educate our people.
Exactly. All right, Ferose, thanks a lot. Thanks a lot. All right, Ferose.
Have a nice evening.
All right, so guys, thanks a lot. Thanks, Mr. Ferose Abdool again. Thanks to you guys at home for tuning in. We didn't get much questions or comments, but that's fine. I know you guys were listening and taking it all in. And it's a topic that we're going to repeat in the future again, and we're going to have this discussion again. All right, so thanks very much to Josh tonight, and he had his friend Justin in here tonight helping us direct and produce this segment. All right, guys, so we sign off for tonight. Take care. God bless. Thank you very much for everything, and have a pleasant evening, everyone. Take care now.